Three words, just three words, spoken by Sheikh Hamdan, the Crown Prince of Dubai, in a private moment that very few people know about. Three words that his wife carried with her every single day after she heard them. Three words that, depending on how you hear them, could mean the most beautiful thing a man has ever said to a woman or the most heartbreaking. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what those words were, and when you do, I promise you, you will understand everything about Sheikh Hamdan's love story that you never understood before. But first, let me give you the context, because without it, three words mean nothing. Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum is not your typical royal figure. Yes, he is the crown prince of Dubai. Yes, he would one day lead one of the most powerful and admired cities on earth. Yes, he moves through a world of palaces, private jets, and state decisions that most of us will never be close to. But strip all of that away, and what you find is something unexpected: a poet, a deeply, genuinely emotional man who has spent his entire adult life processing his feelings not through conversations or therapy or confessions to close friends, but through poetry. Under the pen name Fadza, Sheikh Hamdan has written hundreds of poems. Some are about the desert, some are about horses and falcons and the pride of his nation, but the ones that people return to again and again, the ones that have been shared millions of times across the Arab world and beyond, are the ones about love, specifically about a love that he could not let go of. Now, Sheikh Hamdan has been married. He has had a first wife, Shaker, and a second wife whose identity has been kept largely private out of respect for the royal family. And somewhere between these two relationships, something happened. Something that produced three words so powerful, so loaded, so impossible to forget, that they ultimately shaped the entire course of his second marriage. To understand those three words, you need to understand one thing about Sheikh Hamdan first. He loves deeply, but he loves in a way that is divided. Before Sheikh Hamdan married his second wife, there was Shaker. Their connection was not a simple arranged union, at least not in the way it felt to those who observed it closely. By all accounts, Sheikh Hamdan had a genuine, deep, and complicated emotional bond with Shaker. She was not just a first wife in name. She was in many ways the woman his heart had anchored itself to before the world had a chance to redirect him. But life, and royal life especially, rarely follows the heart's map. When Sheikh Hamdan married his second wife, the expectation from her family, from everyone who witnessed the union, was that this was a new chapter, a complete chapter. That whatever connection existed before would over time naturally fade. It did not fade, and his second wife felt it, not in dramatic, explosive moments, but in the quiet, accumulating weight of small signs, a poem that was not addressed to her, a longing in his eyes during certain songs, the way he would sometimes go silent, not sad, exactly, but somewhere else. She was a patient woman, a dignified woman. She did not make scenes or demand explanations, but she paid attention. And one evening, during a conversation that started simply, as most life changing conversations do, she asked him a question that led directly to those three words. The details of this conversation are not something that has been broadcast publicly, and out of respect, I will not claim to know every word that was exchanged. But what we do know, from those close to the situation, and from the trail of poetry and public statements that followed, is the essence of what happened. His second wife, having carried her quiet observations for months, finally asked him directly, "Do you still love her?" It was a simple question, the kind of question that a woman asks not because she needs information, she already knows the answer, but because she needs to hear him say it, because she needs to know whether he is willing to be honest with her, even when the truth is painful. Sheikh Hamdan, poet, prince, man of carefully chosen words, went quiet. Not the quiet of someone who does not know the answer, the quiet of someone who knows it too well. And then, after a long pause, he spoke. Three words. I never stopped. I never stop. Three words. Present tense. No apology attached. No qualifier. No softening of the edges. Just the truth delivered in the way that only Sheikh Hamdan, a man who has spent his life putting impossible feelings into precise language, could deliver it. I never stopped. His second wife did not cry. She did not raise her voice. According to those who know her well, she simply nodded, slowly, quietly, The way a person nods when they finally receive the confirmation of something they already knew in their bones. She had asked, he had answered, and in that single exchange, the foundation of their marriage shifted permanently. Now, I want you to think about those three words carefully, because depending on how you read them, they mean two completely different things. On one level, they are a confession of failure and admission that Sheikh Hamdan had entered a marriage carrying feelings that belonged to someone else, that his second wife, despite everything she had given, despite all the love and loyalty she had brought into that relationship, had been competing with a ghost from the beginning. That reading is painful, and it is valid. But there is another reading. Those three words are also, strangely, one of the most honest things a person can say to someone they are with. In a world where people lie constantly, where people say what is convenient, what is comfortable, what will keep the peace, Sheikh Hamdan chose to tell the truth. He could have said no. He could have deflected. He could have given her the answer she wanted to hear and preserved the surface peace of the marriage. Instead, he said, I never stopped. That is not the answer of a careless man. That is the answer of a man who respects the person he is with too much to deceive them. A man who believes perhaps that even a painful truth is more honorable than a comfortable lie. Whether his second wife experienced it that way, whether she felt honored by his honesty or simply devastated by it, is something only she can know. What we know is what happened next. His second wife carried those three words with her from that moment forward, not as a wound she nursed bitterly, not as ammunition she stored for arguments, but as a kind of clarity, a lens through which everything else in the relationship suddenly made sense. The poems that had confused her now made sense. The faraway silences now made sense. The particular tenderness he showed in certain moments, and the particular distance in others, all of it made sense. She was not losing her mind. She had not been imagining things. She had simply been loving a man whose heart had never fully arrived. In the months that followed that conversation, she began to make her peace with a decision she had perhaps been approaching for some time. She did not act out of anger. She did not seek revenge or public sympathy. She did what women of genuine strength often do. She got very quiet and she thought very carefully. And then, one day, she left, quietly, permanently, with the kind of dignity that only someone who has truly processed their own pain can carry. She took nothing that wasn't hers. She asked for nothing she hadn't earned. She made no statements to the press, no dramatic appearances, no public campaign for sympathy. She simply walked out of a palace that had never quite felt like home, because the man inside it had never quite been fully present, and she chose herself. And those three words, I never stopped, went with her, tucked somewhere inside her, permanent as a scar that has finished hurting but has not disappeared. After she left, Sheikh Hamdan did what he has always done when words fail him in real life. He wrote. In the second half of 2022, his poetry shifted in a way that anyone paying attention could feel. The verses became less abstract, more direct, less about yearning and more about loss, less about the beauty of love and more about the cost of it. One poem in particular, written and shared publicly during this period, contained lines that many believed were addressed specifically to his second wife. I wronged you with my silence, and I wrong you with my words. I gave you a hand that was already holding something else. Forgive me not because I deserve it, but because you deserve the freedom of it. Read those lines again. He is not asking for forgiveness so that she will return. He is asking for forgiveness so that she can be free. That is an entirely different thing, and it reveals a great deal about how Sheikh Hamdan ultimately understood what he had done. He had not been cruel. He had not been deliberately hurtful, but he had been present in body and absent in heart, and he knew it. And the weight of that knowledge is written into every line of poetry from this period. His second wife, by all accounts, never publicly responded. She never confirmed or denied the connection between his words and her experience. But she did not return. And Sheikh Hamdan, crown prince, poet, man who has everything the world considers valuable, was left with the particular grief of a person who told the truth at exactly the right moment and lost everything because of it. I want to close today with something that I think this story teaches us. Regardless of whether you are royal or ordinary, powerful or invisible, words matter. Not paragraphs, not speeches, not carefully crafted explanations that go on for minutes. Three words. That is all it took to change everything in this story. I never stopped. Those words confirmed the fear that his second wife had been quietly carrying. They gave her the clarity she needed to make the most difficult decision of her life. And they haunted Sheikh Hamdan long after she was gone. Because once honest words leave your mouth, you cannot take them back. There is a strange kind of courage in what Sheikh Hamdan did that day. Most people, when asked a question that difficult, would choose the safe answer, the gentle answer, the answer designed to preserve the relationship even at the cost of honesty. He did not. He said the thing that was true, and he paid the full price for it. Whether that makes him admirable or foolish, whether you see his honesty as integrity or carelessness, depends entirely on who you are and what you have lived through. But one thing is certain, his second wife never forgot those 3 words, and neither I suspect did he. That is the story behind the 3 words Sheikh Hamdan said that changed everything. 3 words that carried more truth and more consequence than any long speech could have. If this story made you feel something, if it gave you a new perspective on what honesty costs and what it's worth, then please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are new here and you appreciate stories told with this kind of depth and care, I would love for you to subscribe and join this community. There are many more stories like this one waiting to be told. I will see you in the next one.